V for Vendetta, written by Alan Moore and illustrated by David Lloyd, was my first ever graphic novel. I thought I'd try the genre, as I'm in my new-to-reading phase, and I'm still figuring out what I like. I'd hoped that the images would help with my learning disability, but I found the experience surprisingly challenging. The handwritten text was difficult for me to pass, and the format was almost unreadable on my phone, my preferred reading method right now. This forced me to read the physical book, a task that's painful enough with a standard paperback for my nerve-damaged hands, let alone with the larger format of a comic. It's a stunning book, but for me, it was physically inaccessible. As a piece of art, it's wonderful. David Lloyd's illustrations are incredible. The use of shadow, the iconic design of the mask, his art builds such an oppressive, believable world, and gave me so many ideas to work with for my cover design. Alan Moore's dialogue-forward writing style for this book was powerful, and humanized even the villains, giving a nuanced window into how everyday people can find themselves part of an evil machine. The world building is rich, and the dystopia it creates feels terrifyingly plausible. It's an engaging, thought-provoking, often unsettling read, but between the physical struggle and my own personal disagreement with its core ideas, which I'll get to in a moment, I'll have to give it a rating of 3 out of 5 stars. It's a landmark of the genre, and there's certainly something in these pages that made me push through the discomfort, but the payoff wasn't as enjoyable as I'd hoped. Now, I want to move on from the review to analyse my thoughts and why this book left me conflicted. As I neared the end of the book, I hoped for a moment of clarity, but the final pages only deepened my disagreement. This conflict I felt started with V's imprisonment and torture of Evie. It was presented as a necessary lesson to free her from fear, but as a disabled person, the kind that would have been sent to a camp like Lark Hill, I found this grotesque. People don't need to be broken to understand fascism's horror. My own experience of vulnerability has taught me that compassion and solidarity, not suffering, are what truly free people. But V's methodology threw out all empathy, becoming as authoritarian as the state that he fought. This failure of empathy mirrors a wider flaw in the book's politics. V for Vendetta is about power, who holds it, and how it's used. And in that, it still feels eerily relevant. Today we can see censorship, disappearing migrants, and billionaires warping reality through algorithms. The same kind of creeping authoritarianism that Moore warns of. Yet, I don't share this book's belief that the answer lies in anarchy. V blames the rise of fascism on the people's apathy, but power isn't just a matter of will, it's a matter of resources. In his world, it was bullets and bread. In ours, it's wealth and data. Inequality is the real gravity that pulls every society towards consolidation of power. V's anarchic revolution doesn't change that. It just shakes up the snow globe. But the heaviest, most powerful flakes will always be the first to settle and rebuild control. We've seen an example of this in the real world. The freedom promised by Thatcher and Reagan's deregulation. It blew up the status quo of state control, but now, over 40 years on, we see that it only concentrated wealth in fewer hands. V's plan feels destined for that same outcome. The tragic irony is that by disarming ourselves of the systems of government, as this book advocates, we only allow the powerful to build new ones without us. A system is a tool, like V's knives. The fact that a tool can be used for evil doesn't mean that we should throw it away. It means we have a responsibility to learn how to wield it for good. In the end, I felt that V for Vendetta offers us a cathartic firework, but my resistance to its core ideas clarified for me that the real, difficult work isn't destruction. It's the collective task of building and defending good systems designed to distribute power and not to hoard it. If I thought this book was challenging to read philosophically, it was just as determined to resist being rebound. The biggest challenge was right at the start. I thought I was being clever by 3D printing the front cover to give some extra dimension, as well as some lines for a framework to support my amateur painting skills. But this didn't go to plan. I was on a tight schedule, and when I woke up to find this 8-hour print with a defective top layer, I had no choice but to roll with it. I did my best to smooth the surface, first with an iron on low to melt and flatten the rough edges, and then by filling the voids with an acrylic gel medium. I think this could have benefited from another coat. It worked to some extent, but it's still quite visible in certain areas, such as the painted hat. But let's all agree that it's an artistic nod to that raster pattern you often see in comics, and not a mistake, and we'll move on. Following the printing defect, another error cropped up. I'd planned to stick down a collage of illustrations from the book, and then cut the paper away from the recessed title. But unfortunately, my paper had other ideas, and immediately tore. After some fiddling, I gave up and pressed the paper into the letters so that I could fill them with paint. This worked, but the characters lost definition, and my hand wasn't steady enough for a clean line, so I went back in with a black pen to outline the letters. In the end, I think this actually helps tie it into the comic book aesthetic. It feels a bit like cel shading. It's not what I originally envisioned, but sometimes the project tells you what it wants to be. Building the rest of the case was relatively uneventful, only picking up a few minor scuffs along the way. This book's parting blow was a bit of glue squeeze out on the end papers. I think this is because the plastic coverboard didn't absorb glue like I'm used to. This has been my least favourite book to read and rebind so far, but in a strange way I'm grateful for the struggle. The physical battle with this book is a great metaphor for why I have such a problem with the story. At many points the book worked against me and I had to resist the urge to blow it all up, but I had to practice what I'm preaching and put in the work to shape these imperfections into a cover and video that, when I take a step back, feel like an achievement. Before we get to the reveal, a quick note. I'll be launching a new type of video to fill the gap between these main releases. There'll be long, cozy supercuts of the entire bookbinding process as a time-lapse. No voiceover, just the natural ASMR sounds of the workshop, perfect for background viewing or if you want to see every detail. If that sounds like your thing, keep an eye out for this icon in the thumbnails. Or, if you'd rather just stick with these book-focused reviews, that's no problem at all. You'll know exactly which videos to skip. Now back to the part you've all been waiting for. Thanks, as always, for your support. See you next time.